You think Mr. Ronan might have forgotten his money here? Aisha's voice stayed low, almost to herself, as she stood alone in the dining room. The envelope lay open on the long teak table. 20 $100 bills half fanned out, edges catching the golden light pouring through the glass walls. $2,000 just sitting there like it had slipped out of someone's pocket in a rush. She glanced toward the empty chair where Ronan had been earlier, coffee cup still warm, phone charger dangling. He'd left for the airport fast. Another flight, another city. The house always felt too big after he was gone. She reached out slowly, fingertips hovering over the bills. Rent was coming. The twins needed shoes that didn't have holes in the soles. The car was making that sound again on the way up the canyon. $2,000 could quiet everything for a little while. She folded the envelope shut, slipped it into her apron pocket, and went back to wiping down the table. The wood shone under her cloth. Perfect, like always. She finished the shift in silence, vacuumed, fluffed, straightened, then clocked out at 3:15, keys jingling, heart thumping harder than it should. Outside, the Pacific breeze hit her face. She started the walk down the long driveway toward the gate, planning to catch the bus at the bottom of the hill. No car today. The old Honda was in the shop again, transmission acting up. She'd been walking the last stretch for weeks. Halfway down the winding road, traffic thinning, she saw her. A woman sitting on the low stone wall beside PCH, silver hair tucked under a worn scarf, coat pulled tight against the wind, a small plastic bag at her feet. No sign, no pleading. Just sitting, staring at the ocean like she was waiting for something that never arrived. Aisha slowed. She'd never seen this woman before, but the way she held herself, quiet, straight-backed, even in the cold, made Aisha's chest ache in a way she couldn't explain. She stopped, looked back toward the Malibu hills, then down at the envelope in her pocket. She peeled off 4 bills, $400, folded them small, and walked over. The woman looked up when Aisha's shadow crossed her. Aisha knelt a respectful distance away, holding out the money along with the thermos of tea she'd made for her own ride home and half a sandwich wrapped in foil. "I don't mean to bother you," Aisha said gently. "I just saw you sitting here. Thought you might be cold. This isn't much, but maybe it helps for tonight." The woman stared at the cash, then at Aisha's face. Her eyes, sharp, tired, sea gray, searched for the trick. "You don't know me," she said quietly. "I don't," Aisha answered, "but I know what cold feels like, and I know what it's like to wonder if anyone notices." The woman's hand shook as she took the money in the bag. She didn't count it, just held it close to her chest. "Thank you," she whispered. "I'm Eleanor." Aisha smiled softly. "Aisha, take care of yourself, Eleanor." She stood, turned, and kept walking toward the bus stop, the remaining $1,600 still heavy in her pocket. She had no idea the woman she just helped was Ronan Hale's mother. She had no idea the envelope she'd taken wasn't forgotten at all. It was a bait, and she just used it to feed the one person who could break the billionaire who had stopped believing anyone could still care. Before we continue, I want to speak to you for a moment. If stories like this remind you that kindness still exists, if they make you feel something real in a world that's getting louder and colder, then I'd love to have you here with us. This channel isn't just videos. It's a tiny corner of the internet where good people come together, where we believe in second chances, in hope, and in humanity. And right now you're early. You're part of the very first people building this family with me. So if you want to grow with us, if you want more stories that touch your heart, go ahead and subscribe. It's free, it supports the channel more than you know, and it tells me that there are still people out there who believe in kindness just as much as I do. If you have subscribed to this channel, I can officially say, welcome to the family. The Malibu estate woke up slow and golden that morning, the kind of light that made everything look expensive even when it was just dust settling on marble. Ronan Hale stood in the kitchen at 6:42 a.m., black coffee steaming in his hand. Ronan believed the world ran on one law. Everyone takes what they can, and they always will. He had learned it young. At 16, his mother walked out of their cramped apartment in East Oakland, without a note, without a goodbye, just gone. He told himself she left because he wasn't enough. Later, he told himself it was because People are never enough for each other. By 25, he had built his first app that made him rich. By 35, he had an empire that made him untouchable. And by 42, he had learned the same lesson in boardrooms, bedrooms, and backrooms. Trust is currency no one ever repays. So he stopped giving it. The Malibu estate was proof. 17 bedrooms, infinity pool that looked like it fell into the Pacific, walls of glass that let the ocean in but kept people out. He lived alone. No wife, no children, no friends who weren't on payroll. The house was cleaned by people who came and went like shadows. Maids, gardeners, chefs, drivers. They were paid well. They were watched closer. Ronan believed in cameras the way other men believed in God. Every room had them. Discrete domes in corners, pinholes in light fixtures, motion-triggered lenses that fed straight to his phone. He reviewed footage the way some people read the news, looking for proof that humanity hadn't changed. Aisha Coleman was the longest-serving shadow in the house. 4 years, never late, never complained. Always left the place smelling faintly of lemon polish and quiet. She arrived at 7:03 a.m. every weekday, let herself in with the side door key, tied her apron, and moved through the mansion like she was trying not to disturb it. Ronan watched her sometimes, not because he suspected her, yet, but because she was the only one who never looked up at the cameras. Never gave them a glance. It unnerved him more than if she had. That morning he placed the envelope himself. 20 $100 bills, $2,000, fanned on the kitchen island under the pendant lights. He positioned it just off center, like it had slipped from his pocket while he grabbed his travel mug. Then he left for LAX, private flight to Seattle, merger talks. He didn't need to be there in person. He just needed to watch what happened next. Isha entered at 7:03. Same soft footsteps. Same quiet hum as she started the coffee pot out of habit, even though Ronan was gone. She reached the island, stopped. The envelope sat there, obvious as a spotlight. She tilted her head, studying it. Mr. Ronan might have forgotten his money here, she said to the empty kitchen, voice barely above a whisper. She looked around once, quick sweep of the room, then back at the bills. Her fingers hovered. Didn't touch yet. In Inglewood, rent was due in 11 days. The landlord had already texted twice. The twins' sneakers were splitting at the toes. The school had sent a note about appropriate footwear. The bus from Inglewood to Malibu took 2 hours each way on a good day, longer when the 405 clogged. She had been walking the last mile from the bus stop up the canyon road for 3 weeks now. The old Honda was in the shop again, parts back-ordered, mechanics saying, "Another month at least." She walked because she had to, because missing a shift meant missing pay, because missing pay meant missing rent. $2,000, she could pay the landlord in full, buy 2 pairs of shoes, get the car fixed, maybe even put something aside for once. But Ronan Hale didn't forget things. She knew the watch on the nightstand last spring, knew the extra cash in the study drawer 2 months ago, knew how quickly those people disappeared after they touched what wasn't theirs. She looked up, straight at the camera dome in the corner. For 3 full seconds, she held its gaze. Then she smiled, small, not triumphant, just knowing. She folded the envelope closed, slipped it into her apron pocket, and went back to wiping down the island. The marble gleamed under her cloth, spotless, like always. Upstairs in the private jet, 30,000 feet over the Pacific, Ronan opened the live feed on his tablet. He watched her pocket the money, watched the smile, watched her go back to work like nothing had happened. His thumb paused on the screen. She hadn't counted the bills, hadn't hidden them better, hadn't even looked guilty. She had just taken them and smiled at him. Ronan leaned back in the leather seat, jaw tight. He didn't know what she was planning, but for the first time in years, he felt something he hadn't felt since he was 16, uncertainty. And somewhere deep inside the man who had stopped believing in people, a small, unwanted crack appeared. Aisha finished her shift at 3:15. She clocked out, locked the side door, and started the long walk down the driveway toward the gate. The canyon road was quiet except for the occasional car humming past. The bus stop was 20 minutes on foot. Downhill, then a flat stretch along PCH. The envelope felt warm against her thigh. She didn't know Ronan was still watching the archive feed on repeat. She didn't know the money wasn't forgotten. She only knew she had it now, and she was going to use it in a way he would never see coming. Isha stepped out of the side gate at 3:17, the envelope still tucked in her apron pocket, like a secret she hadn't decided what to do with yet. The canyon road was quiet. The bus stopped 20 minutes downhill on foot. She started walking, head down, pace steady, the Pacific breeze tugging at her scarf. Halfway down the hill, where the road curved toward PCH, she saw the woman again, silver hair tucked under a faded scarf, coat too thin for the wind coming off the water. Sitting on the low stone wall beside the highway, knees drawn up, small plastic bag at her feet. No sign, no outstretched hand. Just quiet presence, staring at the ocean like it might remember her name. Isha slowed without meaning to. She had seen this woman yesterday. Same spot, same stillness. But today it hit different. Maybe because the envelope was burning against her thigh. Maybe because the twins' laughter from last night was still echoing in her ears. Maybe because $400 felt like something she could give without breaking herself. She kept walking, but slower, past the woman, past the curve. Then she stopped, turned back. The woman didn't look up when Aisha approached, just kept watching the waves. Aisha knelt a few feet away, respectful distance. "I don't mean to bother you," she said gently. "I just saw you sitting here. Thought you might be cold." The woman turned slowly, eyes sharp, tired, sea gray. She studied Aisha's face, looking for the angle. Aisha reached into her apron, pulled out $400 bills, folded them small. She added the thermos of tea she'd brewed for herself that morning and half a sandwich wrapped in foil. "This isn't much," Aisha said, "but maybe it helps for tonight. Hot tea, something to eat, a little cash for whatever you need." The woman's hand hesitated, then took the bundle. She didn't count the money, just held it close. "Thank you," she said, voice soft but steady. "I'm Eleanor." "Aisha." She smiled small. "Take care of yourself, Eleanor." She started to stand. "Wait," Eleanor said. Aisha paused. Eleanor looked at the bills in her hand, then back at Aisha. "You don't know me. Why?" Aisha shrugged lightly. "Because I know what cold feels like. And I know what it's like to sit somewhere and wonder if anyone sees you." Eleanor's eyes softened, just a fraction. "I had a son once," she said quietly. "He made it big. Tech. Big city lights. I lost track of him after things fell apart. A man promised to help me keep the house. Took everything instead. I was too proud to call my boy. Too ashamed to ask." Aisha's breath caught. The last name hadn't registered until now. Hale. She looked closer, really looked. The slope of the cheekbones, the quiet way she held her shoulders. The same gray-blue eyes she'd seen in the small frame photo on Ronan's desk, the one he dusted around but never touched. Eleanor Hale, Ronan's mother. Aisha's hand went to her phone in her pocket. She pulled it out, opened the camera app, lifted it slowly. "May I take your picture?" she asked. "Not to show anyone, just to send to a shelter I know. They help with beds, clothes. I can do it anonymously." Eleanor laughed once, dry, tired. "If it gets me off this wall, take 10. Aisha snapped one photo. Eleanor looking straight at the lens, small smile, ocean behind her. She opened her messages, started typing the name of the Venice family shelter she'd looked up last year when a neighbor needed help. Her thumb hovered over send. Then she stopped. She looked at Eleanor, really looked, saw the pride in her spine, the dignity in her folded hands, the quiet refusal to beg even after everything had been taken. Sending the photo would be safe, anonymous, easy, but it wouldn't be enough, not for this woman. Not for the son who thought she'd left him on purpose. Aisha deleted the draft, deleted the photo, slipped the phone back into her pocket. "I'm sorry," she said. "I can't do it that way." Eleanor raised an eyebrow. "Change your mind?" "No," Aisha said. "I just realized some things need to be done in person." She stood. "I'll come back tomorrow," she said, "with more. And maybe someone who needs to see you?" Eleanor stared. Who? Aisha didn't answer. She just smiled, small, knowing, and started walking toward the bus stop again. Behind her, Eleanor watched until she disappeared around the curve. Up in the air over Nevada, Ronan Hale refreshed the security feed for the third time. Aisha had left the house at 3:15. She hadn't gone straight home. The tracking app on her phone, installed on all staff devices for safety, showed her stopping on PCH, standing still for 12 minutes, then walking away. No shopping, no ATM, no quick stop at a store to spend his money. She had just talked to someone, then kept walking. Ronan's jaw tightened. He zoomed in on the archived clip from the kitchen camera. Watched her smile at the lens again. Watched her pocket the envelope without counting a single bill. He leaned back in the jet seat, tablet glowing in the dim cabin. For the first time in 26 years, he felt something he couldn't name. Not anger, not victory, something colder and far more dangerous. Doubt. Aisha arrived at 7:02 the next morning. Same key in the side door, same apron tied tight, same soft footsteps across the marble foyer. But today the envelope felt different in her pocket. Heavier, even though only $600 remained. The house was quiet. Ronan's flight had landed late last night. She knew because the Tesla was back in the garage, still warm when she passed it. She started her routine. Coffee pot on, counters wiped, fruit bowl straightened. She moved slower than usual, waiting. He appeared at 7:48. She heard him before she saw him. Footsteps on the staircase. Deliberate, not rushed. He stepped into the kitchen wearing yesterday's shirt, sleeves rolled, eyes shadowed from lack of sleep. He stopped when he saw her standing at the island. Aisha didn't flinch. She reached into her apron pocket, pulled out the envelope, and placed it on the counter between them. The remaining 16 $100 bills were stacked neatly, edges aligned. Beside it, she set her phone, screen unlocked, photo open. Eleanor on the stone wall, silver hair catching the wind. Small smile, ocean behind her. The thermos and foil-wrapped sandwich were gone, but the blanket Aisha had bought was folded in the background of the frame. Ronan stared at the money first, then the photo. His hand moved toward the counter, stopped halfway, fingers curled into a fist. "You took it," he said, voice flat, but the edge was gone, replaced by something quieter, thinner. "I did," Aisha answered. No apology, no defense, just fact. He looked up at her. "You were supposed to keep it, or bring it back untouched. Prove me right either way." Aisha met his gaze. "I used 400, bought hot tea, half a sandwich, a blanket, gave them to a woman on PCH. She was cold, alone. I thought, maybe that was better than keeping it or handing it back like nothing happened." Ronan's eyes flicked back to the photo. "Who is she?" Aisha didn't blink. "Her name is Eleanor Hale." The air left the room. Ronan's knuckles went white on the edge of the island. He stared at the screen like the woman in the photo might reach through it and touch him. "That's not possible," he whispered. Aisha stayed silent. "Let him look." He reached out finally, slow, like the phone might burn him, and enlarged the image. Zoomed on the eyes, the slope of the cheek, the faint scar above her left eyebrow he remembered from when he was 8, and she'd fallen off a ladder trying to hang Christmas lights alone. "It's her," he said. Voice cracked on the last word. Aisha nodded once. Ronan pushed away from the counter, paced 2 steps, stopped, paced back. "I hired investigators," he said suddenly, words spilling like they'd been waiting years. "After she left, I was 20, found a trail, old address in Oakland, hospital records, a shelter in Sacramento. Then nothing. They said she didn't want to be found, said she'd checked out of every place they traced. I stopped looking, told myself she'd made her choice." He laughed once, short, bitter. "I built all this so I wouldn't need anyone, so no one could leave again. The tests, the watch, the cash. I told myself I was proving something about people, but it was just me, proving I didn't have to feel it anymore." Aisha watched him. Didn't interrupt. Ronan looked back at the photo. Thumb brushed the screen like he could smooth the wind from her hair. "She's been here," he said, "all this time. On the side of the road I drive every day, and I never saw her." He closed his eyes. When he opened them again, they were wet. I thought she hated me, he said. I thought she left because I wasn't worth staying for. Turns out, she was protecting me. From him, from everything. Aisha spoke softly. She talked about a son who made it big. No anger, just missing you. Ronan swallowed hard. I have to see her. Isha nodded. She's still there. Same spot. I told her I'd come back today. With more. And maybe someone who needs to see her. Ronan stared at her. You didn't have to do this, he said. You could have kept it. Could have walked away. Could have let me keep believing my own lie. Isha shrugged lightly. I wasn't trying to prove you wrong about people. I was just trying to help someone who looked cold. Turns out, she was your someone. Ronan exhaled, a long, shaky breath. He picked up the stack of $1,600, held it like it weighed nothing and everything at once. Then he set it back down. Keep it, he said, for the twins, for the car, for whatever you need. Aisha shook her head. I didn't do it for a reward. I know, he said quietly. That's why I'm giving it. He looked at the photo one more time, then at Aisha. Will you take me to her? She didn't hesitate. Yes. Outside, the ocean kept moving. Inside, something long frozen began to thaw. And the man who had spent his life testing others finally realized the only test that mattered was the one he had failed. Until now. Ronan didn't speak for the first 10 minutes. Aisha drove his black Tesla, keys handed over without a word, down the long driveway, past the gate, onto PCH. The ocean stretched out on the right, endless blue under a pale winter sky. Traffic was light for mid-morning. The road curved gently, hugging the cliffs like it had nowhere else to go. Ronan sat in the passenger seat, hands clasped between his knees, staring straight ahead. The photo of Eleanor was still open on his phone in the center console, screen dimmed but not off. Every few seconds, his thumb brushed the edge of it, like he needed to confirm she was still there. Isha kept her eyes on the road. She didn't push, didn't fill the silence. She just drove. After the first tunnel, dark, then light again, Ronan finally spoke. I was 16 when she left, he said, voice low like he was talking to the dashboard. Dad was hard, drank, yelled. Hit when the yelling wasn't enough. She tried to shield me, took most of it herself. One night she just wasn't there. No note, no bag missing, just gone. I thought she couldn't stand looking at me anymore. Thought I reminded her too much of him. Isha's grip tightened on the wheel. She didn't interrupt. I waited 2 weeks, he continued. Then I started looking, pawned everything I could, hitchhiked to Sacramento once, heard she might be there. Nothing. When the investigators said she didn't want to be found, I believed it, built my life around it, made sure no one could ever leave me again, made sure I never needed anyone enough to care if they did. The road dipped toward a cove. Waves crashed white against black rocks below. Isha glanced at him once. My mom stayed, she said quietly. Even when she shouldn't have. Dad left when the twins were babies. Said he couldn't handle two at once. Mom worked doubles at the hospital cafeteria, came home smelling like bleach and grease. Never complained, just kept going. Told us every night that family doesn't run when it gets hard. It digs in. Ronan looked at her then. Really looked. She's still there. Aisha nodded. In Inglewood, coughs more now, still makes Sunday dinner like nothing's changed. The twins help her. They're 12. Think they're grown. But they still hold her hand when they cross the street. Ronan swallowed. I never had that. After she left, it was just me. Then the apps. Then the money. Then the tests. I kept waiting for someone to prove me right. That everyone leaves. That everyone takes. Aisha let the silence sit for a mile. I took your money, she said finally, but I didn't keep it for me. I gave it away because she looked cold. That's all. Ronan stared out at the water. You could have kept it, paid bills, fixed the car. No one would have blamed you. I would have, she said simply. He laughed once, soft, surprised. You're the first person who ever made me feel small without trying. They passed Zuma Beach. Surfers dotted the waves like black seals. Ronan rubbed his face with both hands. I don't know what I'm going to say to her. You don't have to say anything big, Aisha answered. Just show up. That's more than most people get. The car curved around a final bend. Venice Beach came into view. Boardwalk crowds, skate park, the low stone wall where Eleanor always sat. Aisha slowed, pulled into a side street lot, parked. Ronan didn't move at first, just stared through the windshield. She's there, Aisha said gently. Eleanor was on the wall, same coat, same scarf, same quiet posture. The blanket Aisha had given her yesterday was wrapped around her shoulders now. Ronan opened the door, stepped out, closed it softly. Aisha stayed in the car, watched. He walked slowly, hands in pockets, shoulders hunched like he was bracing for a hit. The boardwalk noise faded as he approached. Tourists laughing, skateboard wheels clacking, gulls crying overhead. Eleanor looked up when his shadow fell across her. She froze. Ronan stopped 3 feet away. Mom? The word came out cracked, small, like it had been locked in his throat for 26 years. Eleanor's hand flew to her mouth, eyes wide, searching his face like she was afraid he'd vanish if she blinked. Ronan? She whispered. He nodded, couldn't speak. She stood, slow, unsteady. The blanket slipped to the wall. Ronan took one step, then another. Eleanor reached out first, trembling fingers brushing his sleeve, then his arm, then his face. You're real, she said, tears spilling. You're really here. Ronan's arms came around her, tentative at first, then tight, like he was afraid she'd disappear again. I'm sorry, he choked. I thought you didn't want me. I thought... Eleanor pulled back just enough to look at him. I followed you, she said. Every article, every photo. I kept them in a shoebox under the bench. I saw you on the cover of Forbes. Saw you at the gala in New York. I was so proud, but I was ashamed. I lost everything after your father. A man promised to help, took the last of my savings in a scam. I ended up here. I didn't want you to see me weak. Didn't want you to think you had to save me. I thought, if you knew I was like this, you'd reject me. So I stayed away. Ronan's breath hitched. You were protecting me, he said, all this time, and I was protecting myself from a lie. Eleanor touched his cheek. We both did the same thing. We both hid. They stood there, mother and son, embracing on the side of the road while the Pacific rolled on behind them. Aisha watched from the car, didn't move, didn't wipe the tear that slipped down her cheek. She had taken $2,000 from a billionaire's table. She had given $400 to a stranger, and she had just handed back a family. Ronan looked over Eleanor's shoulder, met Aisha's eyes through the windshield. He didn't smile. He just nodded, once, slow, grateful. Aisha nodded back. Then she started the car. She would wait. They had 26 years to catch up, and she had a bus to catch home. The guest house at the far edge of the Malibu estate had been empty for years. White walls, ocean view windows. A small garden that had gone wild with bougainvillea. Ronan had it cleaned, furnished, and stocked in 3 days. No fanfare, no announcement. He simply drove Eleanor there himself the afternoon after the reunion on the bench. She walked through the door slowly, like she was afraid the floor might disappear. Touched the kitchen counter, ran her fingers along the back of a chair. Looked out at the Pacific the way she used to look at Lake Merritt when Ronan was small. This is too much, she said. Ronan stood in the doorway, hands in his pockets. It's not. It's just a place to rest and to stay. If you want. Eleanor turned. Tears again, but softer this time. I want. They ate dinner together that first night. Simple food Aisha had dropped off. Roasted chicken, greens, cornbread she'd made at home. Ronan sat across from his mother, awkward at first, then easing into stories. Childhood memories, the bad years, the years after. Eleanor listened, laughed once, quiet, surprised, at how tall he'd gotten, how his voice had deepened into something like his father's but kinder. Aisha didn't stay. She left the food on the porch table with a note. For both of you, take your time. Then she walked back to the bus stop. Ronan found her the next morning in the main house kitchen, apron on, already wiping counters. "You don't have to do that anymore," he said. Aisha paused. "Habit." He set an envelope on the island. Not cash this time, but a letter. Inside, promotion to household manager. Raise that doubled her pay, health benefits for the twins, a company car if she wanted it. Aisha read it twice, looked up. "I didn't do any of this for a job," she said. "I know," Ronan answered. "That's why I'm offering it. Not as payment, as thanks. And as family, if you'll have it." She folded the letter, slipped it into her pocket. "I'll think about it." He nodded, didn't push. Weeks passed. Ronan and Eleanor fell into a rhythm. Morning walks on the beach, afternoon tea on the guest house porch, evenings where they watched the sun set and said little, just sat in the same space. Healing wasn't loud, it was quiet footsteps, shared silences, small laughs over old photos Ronan had scanned from his phone. Aisha came back every weekday. Not just to clean, though she still did that, but to bring food, to sit with Eleanor when Ronan had calls, to listen when Eleanor wanted to talk about the years she'd missed. One Saturday, Ronan loaded the Tesla with insulated bags. Soup, sandwiches, blankets, bottled water. Enough for 20 people. Aisha met him at the garage. "Boardwalk?" she asked. He nodded. "Thought we could do it together. You started it." They drove down PCH again, this time side by side, no tension, just the road and the sea. At Venice, they parked and walked the path together. Ronan carried 2 bags. Aisha carried 3. They moved along the benches, handing out meals to whoever was there. No speeches, no photos, just quiet nods, soft thank you, and the occasional smile. When they reached Eleanor's old spot, she was waiting, blanket folded, coat cleaner now, sitting with a cup of tea from the guest house. She stood when she saw them. Ronan handed her a bag. "For the others," he said, "we're making it a thing." Eleanor took it, looked between them. "You two, you're doing this together?" Aisha smiled. "Someone has to keep him humble." Ronan laughed. Real this time, easy. They sat on the wall for a while, watched the skaters, listened to the waves. Later, back at the estate, Ronan found Aisha in the study. She was dusting the small frame photo of Eleanor, the one she'd seen every week for 4 years. Aisha paused when she saw him. "I noticed her months ago," she said quietly. "On the road. She looked like this picture. Same eyes, same way she holds her head. I didn't know who she was. I just kept an eye out. Every time I drove past, I checked if she was still there. Still okay." Ronan stared at the photo, then at Aisha. "You were watching over her," he said. "For me, before I even knew I needed it." Aisha shrugged. "I dust this picture every week. Hard not to see her face." He stepped closer. "You didn't say anything. You could have asked. Could have told me." "I didn't want to break something that wasn't mine to break," she said. "I just hoped she'd be all right until she wasn't alone anymore." Ronan looked at the photo again, then back at Aisha. "You restored something I didn't think could be fixed," he said. "Not just for me, for her, for us." Aisha set the duster down. "Kindness isn't a test. It's just what you do when no one's watching." Ronan smiled. Small, real. "Then let's keep doing it," he said. "Together." That night they had dinner in the main house. Eleanor, Ronan, Aisha. The twins invited for the first time. Laughter around the table, stories overlapping, the ocean outside the windows calm and dark. Ronan looked across at Aisha, laughing at something Eleanor said, and felt the crack in his chest widen, but not painfully. It was light coming in. For the first time in 26 years, he believed, quietly, tentatively, that people could stay, that they could care, that they could surprise you with the one thing he'd spent his life doubting: kindness. And it had come from the woman who dusted his house, walked to the bus stop, and chose to help a stranger on the side of the road, because she saw someone cold, and because she had always seen more than he paid her to see. The table quieted for a moment. Ronan raised his glass. "To unexpected path," he said. They clinked. And outside, where the Pacific kept rolling, steady, endless, forgiving, like hearts that finally learned how to open again. What will you rate this story from 0 to 10? And what part of the world are you watching from? Comment your country below. Let's build a global community rooted in kindness and second chances. If this story moved you, don't forget to subscribe and share it with your friends. Your support brings us closer to our 1K subscriber milestone and inspires us to keep creating more emotional stories of resilience, healing, and Black excellence. Thank you for being part of our journey. Your presence matters more than you know. Hope to see you again.